At 4 p.m. on April 13th, 2024, Jenna Lawson, a 34-year-old graphic designer, visited a local thrift store, seeking a bit of charm to refresh her small apartment. The store, known for its eclectic mix of items, had recently been reorganized and had a new owner, a middle-aged woman with a kindly demeanor. Jenna's eyes were drawn to a small, unassuming parcel wrapped in brown paper, tucked away on a dusty shelf in the corner of the store. The parcel was curious. It was sealed with old-fashioned wax and bore no label. Intrigued by its mysterious nature and the fact that it was priced ridiculously low, Jenna decided to purchase it, thinking it might be an interesting conversation piece or a hidden gem. That evening, Jenna brought the parcel home and placed it on her kitchen table. As she prepared dinner, she couldn't shake the feeling of unease that had settled over her. The house felt unusually cold, and the shadows in the corners seemed to move with an unnatural fluidity. On Sunday morning, Jenna's curiosity got the better of her. She decided to unwrap the parcel, revealing an old wooden box with intricate carvings. The box was surprisingly heavy and felt ominous in her hands. Inside, she found an assortment of strange items: a tattered diary, an old photograph of a family, and a small, intricately carved wooden figure resembling a grotesque creature. The diary was filled with cryptic entries detailing a series of disturbing events. The previous owner, a woman named Eleanor, had described an intense and growing fear of something she called the presence. The diary's final entries spoke of a desperate ritual intended to banish this entity, but they were incomplete and left Jenna with a lingering sense of dread. That night, Jenna experienced a series of unnerving events. She heard whispers coming from the kitchen and saw the figure from the box move slightly on its own. Her sleep was disturbed by nightmares of shadowy figures and an overwhelming sense of dread. Jenna was convinced it was all a result of stress and her overactive imagination. By Monday, Jenna's anxiety escalated. The strange occurrences in her apartment intensified. She found objects displaced from their original positions, cold drafts in areas where there should be none, and a pervasive feeling of being watched. The figure from the box seemed to have an unsettling presence, its carved eyes seeming to follow her every movement. Desperate to understand the connection between the items and her recent experiences, Jenna researched Eleanor's diary. She discovered that Eleanor had lived in a house much like hers, and had also experienced a series of escalating disturbances before her disappearance. The ritual mentioned in the diary was supposed to involve a specific set of actions performed during a full moon, which was only a few days away. Jenna's physical health began to decline. She suffered from insomnia, headaches, and sudden bouts of nausea. The anxiety over the entity she was convinced was haunting her apartment became overwhelming. On Tuesday, Jenna decided to perform the ritual described in the diary, hoping to end the torment. She followed the instructions meticulously, arranging items in a specific pattern, lighting candles, and reciting the incomplete incantations. As she performed the ritual, she felt a palpable shift in the atmosphere. An oppressive weight seemed to settle over her, and the temperature dropped drastically. Midway through the ritual, Jenna saw the figure from the box animate, its eyes glowing with a sinister light. Shadows in the apartment began to coalesce into dark, writhing forms. Jenna's attempts to finish the ritual were met with increasing resistance from an unseen force. Her apartment transformed into a nightmarish landscape. The walls seemed to breathe, and the whispers grew into a cacophony of angry voices. Jenna felt as though the entity was physically trying to drag her into another realm. She was thrown into a state of panic and tried to escape, but the apartment's layout had become a disorienting maze. By Wednesday morning, Jenna was found missing. Her apartment was a scene of chaos and destruction. The ritual items were scattered, and the once quiet home was now filled with ominous symbols drawn in dark, viscous substance. Jenna was nowhere to be found. Local authorities were called to investigate. They found no clues about Jenna's whereabouts, only disturbing evidence of a struggle. The symbols on the walls and floors were incomprehensible, adding to the mystery. The thrift store was visited by investigators, but when they arrived, the store had undergone a peculiar transformation. The new owner, a different woman from the one Jenna had dealt with, was evasive and unhelpful. She claimed no knowledge of the parcel Jenna had purchased, and records of the old inventory were missing. The store's address appeared to be newly established, with no trace of the previous owner or any record of the parcel. Further investigation revealed that the thrift store did not appear in any business registry and was not listed as an established business beyond a few weeks prior to Jenna's purchase. It was as if the store and the dark forces connected to it had vanished without a trace. The apartment remained abandoned, and Jenna's disappearance became a chilling legend. Locals whispered about the dark presence that had claimed her, and the story of the forgotten parcel served as a haunting reminder of the dangers hidden in forgotten corners and the malevolent entities that might be drawn to those who dare to uncover them. At 2 p.m. on December 4th, 2024, Marcus Reed, a 33-year-old freelance photographer, wandered into a local thrift store searching for unique props for an upcoming photo shoot. The store was a treasure trove of vintage items, with everything from old furniture to curious knickknacks. Amid the clutter, Marcus's attention was drawn to an elegant antique vase with intricate floral patterns. The vase, though dusty and slightly chipped, had a certain allure that Marcus found irresistible. The store owner, a middle-aged woman with a kindly demeanor, offered it to him at a modest price. She mentioned casually that the vase had been donated by a recently deceased estate, but she didn't elaborate further. Intrigued, Marcus bought the vase, intending to use it as a centerpiece in his photo shoot. That evening, Marcus placed the vase in his apartment and began arranging his setup for the shoot. As he positioned the vase, he noticed something odd, a faint, almost imperceptible hum emanating from it. The sound was so subtle that he initially dismissed it as a trick of the mind. By Thursday morning, Marcus started experiencing strange phenomena. His apartment, usually bright and welcoming, seemed to have grown darker and colder. The vase, now prominently displayed in his living room, appeared to have an unsettling presence. The hum from the vase had become more pronounced, almost like a low, droning noise that seemed to pulse in the background. As Marcus went about his day, he began to notice inexplicable changes. His normally calm cat became agitated and hissed at the vase. Small items around the apartment shifted position, and he occasionally heard faint whispers when alone. The atmosphere felt heavy, and Marcus had trouble sleeping, plagued by disturbing dreams of shadowy figures and eerie, indistinguishable voices. Determined to ignore the disturbances, Marcus continued with his photo shoot. However, his photos were coming out distorted and blurry whenever the vase was in the frame. No matter how carefully he adjusted the lighting and camera settings, the vase seemed to disrupt the images. On Friday, Marcus's unease grew. The whispers became clearer, and he could make out fragments of words: help, leave, and danger. The vase's presence in his apartment was now a constant source of dread. He tried to move it to different rooms, but the eerie sensations followed him wherever he went. Marcus decided to research the vase's origins. He visited the thrift store again, hoping to learn more about the estate from which it came. The store owner was reluctant to provide information, but mentioned that the previous owner had experienced a series of unfortunate events before passing away. The vase had been one of the last items donated, and the owner's relatives had been eager to clear out the estate quickly. Further investigation revealed that the deceased individual had been involved in occult practices, and that the vase was rumored to be linked to a dark ritual intended to bind malevolent spirits. The ritual had gone awry, trapping the spirits within the vase. By Saturday, Marcus's situation had become dire. The disturbances were no longer subtle. The whispers turned into audible voices, and he could feel a chilling presence in the apartment. The vase seemed to exert a physical influence, causing objects to move and lights to flicker uncontrollably. Marcus decided to consult a paranormal expert. The expert, upon examining the vase and the apartment, confirmed that the vase was indeed a conduit for negative energies. The expert recommended a cleansing ritual to neutralize the curse and remove the malevolent spirits. That evening, Marcus and the expert performed the ritual, which involved burning sage, chanting protective prayers, and using symbols to ward off the spirits. As they completed the ritual, the vase began to vibrate violently, and a loud, oppressive force seemed to pulse through the apartment. By Sunday morning, the atmosphere in Marcus's apartment had returned to normal. The oppressive cold and whispers had vanished, and the vase's unsettling hum was gone. The paranormal expert assured Marcus that the cleansing had been successful, but warned him that the effects of such curses could sometimes linger. Marcus decided to donate the vase to a local museum specializing in occult artifacts, where it could be properly studied and contained. He hoped that its presence in a controlled environment would prevent it from causing further harm. Marcus's experience with the vase became a chilling reminder of the dangers of acquiring objects with dark histories. The vase was carefully catalogued and displayed in the museum, its unsettling allure serving as a cautionary tale for those who might come across similar items. At 2 p.m. on September 12, 2024, Emma Taylor, a 29-year-old antique dealer, visited a small estate sale in a quiet suburb. The sale was advertised as a rare opportunity to purchase valuable antiques from the estate of a recently deceased collector. Among the items was a grand old clock with an ornate design that immediately caught Emma's eye. The clock was said to have been in the family for generations, but its origins were shrouded in mystery. The clock, with its intricate carvings and heavy brass pendulum, seemed to exude an aura of melancholy. The seller, an elderly man with a solemn expression, offered it at a surprisingly low price. Emma, captivated by its craftsmanship, decided to purchase it, believing it would make a unique addition to her shop. That evening, as Emma set up the clock in her apartment, she noticed something unusual. The clock's hands were stuck at 3:15, despite her efforts to adjust them. She shrugged it off as a minor mechanical issue and went about her evening. The following morning, Emma awoke to find that her apartment had grown unnaturally cold. The temperature had dropped significantly overnight, and a thick fog seemed to have settled inside her living room. The clock, which she had set on a side table, now emitted a low, rhythmic ticking that seemed to pulse through the apartment. Emma's attempts to fix the clock's mechanism were unsuccessful. As the day progressed, she began to experience unsettling occurrences. Objects in her apartment moved slightly on their own, and she heard faint whispers whenever she was alone. The whispers were barely audible, but they carried an unmistakable tone of urgency and dread. Despite her growing unease, Emma tried to continue with her day. However, the atmosphere in her apartment grew increasingly oppressive. The clock's ticking grew louder and more erratic, and the whispers became more insistent. On Saturday, Emma decided to investigate the clock's history. She visited the estate sales cellar, hoping to learn more about the clock's origins. The elderly man was absent, but she spoke with his daughter, who revealed that the clock had a troubled history. Tea was said to be a family heirloom connected to a series of unfortunate events, including unexplained illnesses and misfortunes that befell those who owned it. Emma returned home, more determined than ever to uncover the truth. As night fell, the clock's behavior became even more erratic. Its ticking now seemed to resonate with an unnatural rhythm, almost like a heartbeat. Shadows in the apartment grew longer and more distorted, and the whispers became clearer, though still unintelligible. Emma set up her camera to record the clock and the strange phenomena occurring around it. As she reviewed the footage, she saw disturbing images. The shadows in the apartment appeared to move on their own, and the clock's pendulum swung with a life of its own. The whispers were now distinct phrases, urging her to return what was stolen. By Sunday, Emma was exhausted and frightened. The clock's ticking had become a constant, oppressive presence, and the apartment felt like it was closing in on her. She decided to return the clock to the estate sale in hopes of ending the disturbances. At the estate, the elderly man had returned. He seemed both relieved and troubled when Emma explained the situation. He told her that the clock was believed to be cursed, a vessel for a malevolent spirit that had caused suffering for generations. The family had tried to rid themselves of it multiple times, but the spirit always found its way back. Emma was instructed to perform a ritual to appease the spirit and break the curse. Following the man's guidance, she set up a small ceremony in the estate's old study, placing the clock in its original position and following the steps described. As Emma completed the ritual, the atmosphere in the estate lightened, and the clock's ticking finally came to a stop. The apartment's oppressive cold lifted, and the whispers faded away. Emma left the estate feeling a sense of relief, but also an unsettling awareness of the dark forces she had encountered. The clock remained at the estate, now a warning of the dangers of tampering with objects steeped in dark histories. Emma's experience became a tale of caution, a reminder that some things are best left untouched, and that the past often carries more weight than one might expect.